women in that way. This is an expressionistic painting by Max McMahon suggesting violence. A woman is brutally assaulted. She is going to be murdered in a hotel room. And very, very frightening, very menacing, frightening picture. In the beginning of the 20th century, towards 1920s or 30s, this movement, Expressionism, originated. And it was a movement that tried to articulate all the anxieties, insanity, oppression, persecution. These were the things. But again, once again, you should realize, mostly it was male anxiety they tried to articulate. The male anxieties, and there was a reason for that. One dominant theme in Expressionism was the disharmony or incompatibility in man-woman relationship. It was a dominant, obsessive. Why? If you think in terms of the background of the war, what happened during wartime? Almost all the able-bodied men, young men, went to fight, and war prolonged for a few years. Most of them perished in the war front. People at home were only women and children and old men. And the families maybe sincerely thought, some of the persons without any news, they thought their men had died and some women had remarried. War is over and the survivors return. Survivors return either handicapped or coming to find their women already remarried. Possessing dreams like the predominance of a grassy countryside, their families waiting for the return, they come back, they find they don't fit in with the civilian society. Because war had liberated women, and Bertrand Russell says the controversial role of war in liberation and emancipation of women is war in a way emancipated women. Because they were forced to come to public domain, work in factories, work in offices, and they had become self-dependent and they could make both ends meet. And the war is over, war veterans return, finding their women capable, these men couldn't tolerate. And in some families where the women really waited for them, the heroes were handicapped and they wouldn't work anymore, whereas women had to work and earn, and some kind of complexes developed. We have innumerable Hollywood films where the return of a war veteran creates problems within the family. What is the story of Stalin's first blood? A Vietnam war veteran returns and the civilian society cannot tolerate it. So this thing articulates that. Another painting by McMahon, Expressionist painting 9. Persecution. In the dead of the night, some people enter a household and persecute the owner of the house and his wife. We don't know for what reason. None of the reasons are given, but it's a scene of terrible violence. The same kind of violence that Harold Pinter articulated in his Theatre of Cruelty. In Theatre of Cruelty, Harold Pinter articulated the same kind of violence. People are persecuted, reason we do not know, nothing, no background reason. And that accentuates the appeal of horror. Now, the title of this painting is Lovers. It's an expressionistic painting. Lovers is a very romantic scene and title. But if you really look at the face, is there any element of expressive love? No. The woman is suspicious of the person. So physical nearness doesn't mean sharing actual, heart-to-heart sharing. That was a problem I told you. That was a problem, consistent problem with expressionistic paintings. Another theme of the same theme with the same title, Lovers, by George Gross. Lovers, you look at the Lovers. Who is a male lover? A bald-headed middle-aged business executive. And his lover is a prostitute he brought from somewhere, from the suburbs. It's just a moment's meeting. It's a moment's meeting where any meaning in man-woman relationship has disappeared. It is lust, not love, that characterizes. Look at his face, your facial expression. Is there any softness of a romantic feeling? Absolutely. And this is the moment when he is able to think of a typist, lady typist, waiting for the strike of 5 o'clock, like a taxi waiting, probing. And again, Eliot's attitude to women is so misogynistic, and that has been brought to criticism by feminist critics. Because when a woman is violated, though she doesn't feel it, this young typist doesn't feel anything, she is so immune to it, this kind of physical violation, exploring hands encountered no defense. And the young man Carbonello, without even saying goodbye, he disappears. But then what does he say? When lovely woman stoops to folly, She combs her hair with an automatic hand, she puts her record on the graph. He remembers Oliver Goldsmith and says, why don't this girl go and commit suicide? Why don't this girl go and commit suicide? The resonance of a suicidal thought in Goldsmith's Vicar of Wakefield emerges there in that scene. Maybe Tiresias. Tiresias wonders why this woman doesn't bother about suicide. Because she's so attuned to that. She's a modern woman. She's so casual about it. She's exploited. She knows that. But she can't do anything with that. She can't just go and jump from a building and die. So that kind of attitude in man-woman. C.H. Lawrence, for example, the relationship between Paul and Clara. The same kind of relationship when they are physically so close together, about kilometers away. Disharmony in man-woman relationship. Look at Lawrence Sampson levels. I don't want to expand reading that. Another painting. Expressionistic painting, articulating the whole experience of modernity as a very frightening, nightmarish scream by Edward Moore. A landscape, an expressionist landscape. I told you, the business of the artist is not to imitate reality, but to express the emotion of violence and agitation and insanity. And this is how they resort to a particular artificial color scheme to articulate that. Look at the stage setting of O'Neill's play. O'Neill is an expressionist playwright, and this is an initial opening scene where he gives the stage setting. If you read it, the color scheme is white pillars, the room is bare of furniture with an exception of one huge chair made of uncut wood. This stands in center. This is apparently Emperor's throne. It is painted dazzling, ice-mighty red. So a white stage, exactly in the middle only one furniture painted red. Carpet is red, cushions are orange. So it's a kind of combination between white and red. And expressionist painters use predominantly red for the psychedelic effect. So here, the playwright, subjectively, designing the choreography of the whole scene, the mise-en-scene of the whole scene in terms of a color dialectic, which is remarkably expressionist, visually expressionist. And this is Picasso's Guernica, a cubist painting. Again, a quintessential statement of war. Because he painted it when, during the Spanish Civil War, a little town, Guernica, was decimated by heavy bombing by the fascist forces. The whole town and civilians, multitudes of civilians died in that bombing. And Picasso was in Paris, and this was his response, his painting was his response, suggesting the bitterness of war. But the style he adopts is that of cubism, where human figures are reduced to geometric shapes. Human figures are reduced to basic geometric shapes, which is more essential for Picasso to articulate the reality. Not the visual reality, but the basic reality of constitution. And I will show you a clipping.
Spain, immersed in civil war, offered the perfect opportunity for the Nazis to test Germany's war readiness. In a show of fascist solidarity with Franco, the Luftwaffe tore apart the little Basque town of Guernica. This was a signal for Picasso to offer a response to the savagery of the times. In a period of just a few weeks, he painted the huge canvas Guernica to hang in the Spanish pavilion at the Paris exhibition of 1937. Extreme distortion, licensed by Cubism, comes together with symbols of violence, horror and fear that reach back to Europe's oldest myths and rituals, to the myth of the Minotaur and the ritual of the bullfight. Some wished for something simpler, but its effect as a political statement by a modernist against blind cruelty of those who claim to stand for civilization was instant. In 1937,
I just wanted to give you a feel of Guernica. And in the background of war, as a revolt against war, just sort of protest against war, somebody paints a picture like this, painting Mona Lisa, drawing moustache, and using a very obscene title. And this was painted by an artist called Marcel Duchamp, who belonged to the Dadaist movement. Now, Dadaism was an anarchic movement. In the light of this war, I told you, in the light of this war experience, they thought that all human, culture, definitions of culture, all these are meaningless. Artists could not avert a war. Literature could not avert a war. And so, what's the meaning of human life? So, finding life absolutely meaningless and absurd, they wanted to articulate the essential absurdity of life in a very anarchic way, trying to give a shock treatment to the people. Dadaism was an anti-art movement. They said a work of art doesn't need an artist for its existence. A work of art doesn't need an artist for its existence. An artist only discovers it. It doesn't create anything new. And Duchamp, people like Duchamp, they went to the extreme of articulating the basic absurdity of life, especially images and language. What does human language do? What is the effect of language, the so-called commonsensical language? We have a feeling that language stands for common sense. So long as the grammar of any particular language is kept, it is meaningful. Now, I will give you a sentence. Okay, I will give you a sentence. I am going to tell a story. One day when it was night, he sat in his room and thought about the horror of life. I am telling a story. Did you find anything wrong with that? Anything weird about that? What was I saying? One day when it was night, how absurd it is. I was telling a story. One day when it was night, how can day be night? Any absurdity. You can articulate any absurdity provided the grammar, syntax is correct. Subject in subject's position, verb in verb's position, people have absolutely no clue. Or let me make a confession to you, another confession to you. This is the 23rd time that I have stopped smoking for the first time. Perfectly grammatical. How absurd it can be. Or a writer like Garcia Marquez writing about a girl getting into a toilet, starting bathroom, taking bath. She finds somebody peeping through the ventilator. She flew away through the room. She flew away through the room. That is magical realism. The way you have been constructing a normal narrative in normal language, at a particular unexpected moment, it leaks into the world of fantasy, the world of the marvelous. What Kafka was doing in Metamorphosis. The inaugurators of modernism were people like Kafka on the one hand and Lewis Carroll on the other. Alice in the Wonderland. Alice in Wonderland is a very complex creation, and Lewis Carroll himself was never happy about the kind of reception that novel had, people reading it only as a children's novel. He said, I wish I never wrote that novel anymore. Because people used to miss the complexities of the novel. I will show you two clippings from Alice in Wonderland at this juncture, because you have to see that